Hello and welcome to the next Simplement Data Director overview video. In this video we're going to be talking about the Buena Vista management tool and what that does for you. I'll also mention in general what Buena Vistas are and how this tool relates to that. I'm just going to click here on the tool to open it, and then we'll talk briefly about what Buena Vistas are in case you're unfamiliar with that concept and how this tool can help you manage them. Those of you who happen to speak Spanish have probably already noticed that Buena Vista literally means good view or nice view. And that's a pun on the concept of database views, because these are views in the database in their own special BV, short for Buena Vista schema, that Simplement and our Data Liberator tool will automatically generate in your target database as part of the replication process. For continuity's sake, I'm going to use the SAP table that we've already been using in the other videos, VBAK, and use that to sort of illustrate what a BV, aka a Buena Vista, offers you. So I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom, and just keep in mind, if you are opening this for the first time, there's however many tables you have in replication is how many objects are going to appear here in this browser. So in my demo system, I have a lot, so I have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to find VBAK, but it depends on how many you have in replication. Actually, you notice a slight difference in my screen now. There's no longer an entry here in the Buena Vista column for for VBAK, and that's because I went ahead and deleted it to create a scenario to show how we would use this tool to regenerate Buena Vistas when necessary. So let's talk for a moment about what Buena Vistas are, actually, and they are data dictionary enhanced views of the raw SAP tables that are automatically generated as part of our replication process with that's built into the Data Liberator and the Replication Manager. So sticking with VBAK as the example, when you choose to replicate VBAK or any other table, the Data Liberator will make an exact one-to-one copy of the raw SAP table exactly as it appears, and it'll create a physical database table in this SAP schema. So if I were to look in the database, there would be a sap.vbak table on the target database. However, besides just the raw table, what's much more useful for developers is the Buena Vista view that is generated based on the raw table that is replicated. And as I mentioned, the Buena Vista view is enhanced compared to the raw table in a couple important areas. And I'll show what that means by switching over to SSMS and showing a query that will show the difference. Before I can show that query though, if you recall, I said I purposefully deleted the Buena Vista. So I'm going to show you how to use the tool to regenerate the Buena Vista. And in most cases, the Buena Vista is not ever going to be deleted, but it's helpful to know how to regenerate it because there are scenarios where the underlying SAP table could be altered via something like an SAP transport, and you might just need to regenerate the Buena Vista definition so that it picks up whatever changes were made to the underlying SAP table. It's very easy to do this though. All we have to do is select the table in question. In this case, the only one is VBAK. Just have it highlighted. I go up to this Actions drop-down, and you see it has a select top to 100 rows. I can't do that because I deleted Buena Vista. So all I can do is regenerate the view definition. So that's what I'll hit now. It'll pop this up saying it has been regenerated, and it'll refresh the page. And now we see here there is an entry for the Buena Vista. So what it actually did in the background was it recreated that view in the database. So real quick, I have two queries set up that'll show the differences between the raw SAP tables, and the Buena Vistas, or the BVs as we call them a lot, and why the BV is so much more useful. So we see here, I'm querying from the raw SAP table, and you see all the results, the column names are all in their original German SAP acronyms, which in a table like VBAK, there's literally hundreds of columns, so it's almost impossible for a regular person to remember what each and every column is. And that's where the Buena Vista comes in. So I'm going to run the same query, but this time, if you recall the schema and the name, I'm selecting from the Buena Vista version. And we can see the difference already. So we preserve that raw SAP column, so you can always tie back to the original. But this is what I was talking about when I said it's data dictionary enhanced, where we can see every column is appended with its language correct definition that is stored in your SAP system. And this is similar to what I talked about in the Dictionary Explorer video, where I talked about how these names are from whatever is defined in your system. So in this case it's English. These column names can be based on whatever you have stored in SAP. So if you have a Spanish installation, you can have all these column names be in Spanish or French or German or whatever language you have in SAP. So that alone makes the BVs, the Buena Vistas, much easier to use from a developer's point of view, as the person who has to actually go around and create SQL objects, tables, views, stored procedures, etc. But it's not just the the English or whatever language you happen to want your names in that makes it more helpful. But also, if you look here at this ERDAT, date on which the record was created column, you can see here the raw SAP column. SAP stores their dates as text strings. Actually, it does not store them as a date data type in the database. So when our tool automatically generates the BV, we have some logic built in that will convert that date column into an actual, we'll convert that text string date column into an actual date data type date column. And this allows you to use actual date functions in your SQL, which is a huge convenience and makes it much easier than trying to use the raw table. Switching back to the Buena Vista management tool though. So like I mentioned, these Buena Vistas are generated automatically as part of replication, but if there is ever a situation in which the Buena Vista becomes corrupted, the SAP table underneath changes, if there's ever some sort of issue with the Buena Vista, all you have to do is come here, find the table in question in the list, and just like I did a moment ago, do regenerate view definition, and you'll be able to do that immediately. It's a very fast process. And actually, some of you might have noticed while I was scrolling around that not every table has the same little visual icon next to it. That is intentional. Those icons indicate, and you can see here in the type as well, that this Buena Vista is actually coming from a pool or cluster table in some cases. So VBAC is not a pool or cluster table. It's just a regular, what SAP calls a base table. This TZT01 is in fact coming from a pool table, and I'll get into that in a separate video that discusses the pool table view tool, because there's a separate process for generating the Buena Vistas for pool tables. But once that process is completed, you can regenerate every Buena Vista from here. So that's why they're all here on the same screen. So I spent a fair amount of time talking about the Buena Vistas and what they do and how they're improvements on using the raw SAP tables. But basically all that is to say is that this tool's purpose really is not to create the BVs, because they're created automatically as part of our replication process. This is to help you ensure that the BVs are always up to date and to fix any issues if a BV gets deleted or corrupted or some change happens where the BV isn't working. So this tool is basically just to fix the BVs if something goes wrong. With that, we've pretty much covered all the features and functionality of the Buena Vista management tool. So in one of the next videos, I'll move on to some of the other tools, and I'll get to the pool table views that I was talking about in this video as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.